Ralph Sarchie had been called to the pretty suburban home of the McKenzie family, a self-proclaimed religious demonologist who had been mentored by Ed and Lorraine Warren. He was there to perform an exorcism. Also a New York City police sergeant, Sarchie was used to living in two worlds, one of cop life, down and dirty in the streets with very real blood and guts, and one plagued by a different sort of crime. The different sort of crime was, as Sarchie explained in his 2001 autobiographical book Deliver Us from Evil, perpetuated by forces that are evil beyond imagination. In short, the demonic. The case of the McKenzie family was, so it seemed, no different. A house of women who, after suffering the loss of the head of the family, had endured grotesque horrors. Specifically, the unceasing attention of a preternatural incubus for the past 6 years. "I'm here to help as best I can," Sarchie had told Monique McKenzie, the 17-year-old oldest daughter of the family, when she greeted him at the door. Her eyes, so Sarchie explained, were haunted. A few hours later, when standing in the family's kitchen, the moonlighting demonologist got to understand why. Facing the house's glass patio doors, a sudden movement caught his eye. It was a shapeless black mass that glided from right to left before disappearing into a wall. Terrifyingly, it appeared to be inside the room, the darkness of the nighttime having transformed the patio doors into black glass mirrors that had presented the reflection. True to his police training, Sarchie had immediately gone outside to look for an intruder. There was none. The shape had been inside the kitchen. Shapeless, ethereal, not human. None of the family had said a word to the police sergeant, despite having seen the apparition also. They didn't need to. Their faces told Sarchie everything. There you go. Now you believe us. This was the foul spirit that they had been tormented by for the past 6 years. A spirit that had frightened them, stolen their dignity, and even at times taken their very bodies from them. My name is Laura, and you are watching The Paranormal Scholar. By the time Sarchie found himself in suburban Washington, D.C., at the home of the McKenzies, the family had already spoken about their experiences on Sightings, an American television show that reports on real-life cases of paranormal activity. According to Sarchie, their testimonies had been compelling, with what they were describing leading him to believe that they were being oppressed by demons. A few months later, during a phone call with Ed Warren, Sarchie was invited to join the Warrens on a visit to the family's home. They were desperate and had reached out for help. It all began, so Claudia, the mother of the family, explained, the first Christmas after her husband had died. Tragically, just 3 days after moving into their new home, he had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, passing away just a month later. Facing their first Christmas without him, their eldest daughter Monique had experienced the sound of 3 violent thumps on her night table. These were followed by a series of rhythmic raps. None appeared to have a cause. They had been manifested into sound by unseen hands. Urgent and aggressive unseen hands. At first, the then young girl thought someone had broken into the house. Fearing for her life, she was too afraid to open her eyes. It was then, lying in her bed alone and scared, that she heard and felt something breathing heavily on her ear. When it spoke, its voice sounded raspy and decrepit, as though, she explained during her recorded interview with the Warrens, it was thousands of years old. It told her that it wanted to have sex with her. Absolutely terrified, the girl rushed to her mother's bedroom. At first, Claudia did not believe her child. After all, it was so strange and unsettling. Instead, she had assumed her bereaved daughter had suffered a nightmare. She calmed her down and sent her back to bed. And that was the end of it, until the following winter. This time, it was the mother, Claudia, who experienced something inexplicable. She was alone in her bedroom, her new boyfriend Artie away at the time, when she heard something enter the room. Similar to Monique's experience, she felt it breathing loudly in her ear. Then she experienced the sensation of falling. She was paralyzed with terror. There was, so she explained, pure evil in the room with her. Desperate to get to her children, which included Monique and her 2 twin daughters, Caroline and Mary Beth, Claudia remembered getting out of bed. Whatever happened next, however, was bizarre. She saw her children flickering on the walls as if they were floating. When she tried to speak to them, no sound left her mouth. All around her, the furniture appeared wavy and transparent. A desperate attempt to reach the phone to call her mother for help resulted in Claudia hearing the voice of her deceased husband. She cried to him for help, after which she awoke back in bed. And so, just another nightmare. Or was it? As the months continued, so did the eerie experiences in the house. Cruel and confusing, the family would hear strange cries, including on one horrifying occasion coming from a plastic baby doll. It wasn't the kind of doll that cries, just a regular plastic doll. Sensationally, it was even said to have had real tears in its eyes. Then, one day, after returning home from a church service, the activity intensified. According to Claudia, she, her friend Jamie, and one of the twins, Mary Beth, were physically attacked while saying additional prayers in the house. Horrifically, Mary Beth felt a burning sensation on her stomach, as if she had just been scratched. When she raised her shirt to look, she and her mother saw that the girl's body had been clawed from hip bone to hip bone. It was a wide red line that was welting up. Shocked and uncertain as to what to do, the trio resumed their praying. And yet, the more they called for protection from the divine, the worse the activity became. Mary Beth is said to have let out a loud yelp of pain as 3 side-by-side scratches appeared on her cheek. Eerily, the number 3 is often associated with the demonic as an inversion of the Trinity, a sacred symbolism that is so ancient that it predates Christian culture. Ralph Sarchie describes the inversion of the number 3 as the calling card of the demonic. And so by now the family suspected preternatural interference. What they were experiencing was not just an ordinary spirit haunting, but the work of a demon. Appeal to the religious only seemed to inflame the activity, with physical assaults being visible on their bodies. Indeed, even the family friend Jamie is said to have been scarred by the incident. According to Claudia's testimony, we all heard growls and saw red marks appear on her face, her forearms, and her chest. Before too long, the kids looked like battered children, and Claudia was left with a difficult choice to make: to stay or leave. And yet, leaving the house proved to be pointless. A brief stay at Claudia's brother's home left them feeling utterly disheartened. The children were continually attacked. On one occasion, so the mother alleged, she witnessed her daughter receive a demonic scratch right in front of her. The vicious burning wound appeared on Mary Beth's face, being so brutal that the result was she had both tears and blood streaming down her ravaged face. It was upon their return home that the phenomena is said to have increased again, having transformed from the audible knocks and bangs to the physical scratches and burns. It changed once more to the sexual. Heinously, every female in the house, excluding 13-year-old Caroline, claimed to have experienced nighttime molestation on more than one occasion. Even Jessica, Claudia's 15-year-old niece who lived with the family for some of the hauntings' duration, was not spared. Even sleeping in pairs did not alleviate the assaults, with Ralph Sarchie and the Warrens compiling horrific testimonies in which the women and girls were suffocated and thrown about the room by the hellish predator. In one particularly graphic testimony, 17-year-old Monique described being woken by the sound of a sledgehammer banging the walls and floors. When she looked to the end of the bed, she saw the outline of a man. She then proceeded to explain how the dark apparition flopped forward on top of her, after which she felt it enter her body. In the young woman's own words, "It hurt really bad, like I was being ripped open." Beyond abhorrent sexual attacks, the entity in the house seemed to be encouraging violence between members of the household. It would, so the girls explained, put evil and obscene thoughts into their minds. During her interview, Monique candidly confessed to getting strange urges to pick up a bottle or knife and attack her mother, sisters, and cousin. Jessica, the girl's cousin, experienced something similar. "My hand kept moving from side to side against my will," she explained to both Ralph Sarchie and the Warrens. "My hands felt like they had claws, and I wanted to scratch someone." From the McKenzie family's testimonies, it seems to have been the case that they had to fight on a daily basis, fight to resist succumbing to the darkness and allowing whatever perverted preternatural beings stalk the shadows of their home even greater access to their bodies, minds, and souls. In folklore, the incubus is a male demon that assumes human form in order to have sexual intercourse with sleeping women. The counterpart to the feminine succubus, union with incubi was historically associated with the birth of malevolent witches, demons, and human-demon hybrids known as changelings or cambium. Deterioration in the mental and physical state of the female victim is also linked to incubi activity. After all, the traditional purpose of the incubus was not merely to invert the sacred and creative union of man and woman in the begetting of monstrous offspring, but also to drain vital life force from the woman. Eerily, the incubus is encountered in various guises all around the world, similar nighttime assailant being found in ancient Mesopotamia. Here, the Lilu is a classification of demon or spirit believed to disturb or seduce women in their sleep in order to produce offspring. Elsewhere, incubi-type spirits are known as Trauco in Chile, Alp in Germany, Karabasan in Turkey, and Pisadira in Brazil. Despite the cultural variations, these entities share strikingly consistent traits. They attack during the night, immobilize their victims, and induce sensations of suffocation, paralysis, or unwanted sexual contact. To some, the cross-cultural persistence of such stories suggests that, rather than be a real supernatural entity, the incubus instead represents a deeply rooted human attempt to rationalize episodes of sleep paralysis, night terrors, or other sleep-related disturbances long before the advent of medical explanation. In this way, modern medical science has attempted to explain away this universal phenomena, pointing primarily to normal states of consciousness experienced when either in a hypnagogic or hypnopompic state, i.e. when we move from wakefulness to sleep or inversely, sleep to wakefulness. In short, that incubus and succubus encounters are hallucinations. After all, typical phenomena associated with an incubus-type entity include the feeling of being crushed or suffocated, electric tingles or vibrations, discarnate speech, the vivid presence of a visible or invisible entity, and sometimes intense emotions such as fear, euphoria, and even orgasmic feeling. All of this is consistent with hallucinatory experiences. And yet, what is striking about the case of the McKenzies is the consistency with which the specific attacking entity is physically described. Indeed, according to the testimonies contained in Ralph Sarchie's book, whenever various members of the family caught sight of the demon that was terrorizing them, they described it in similar terms. Indeed, even Artie, the boyfriend, the only male in the household, is claimed to have witnessed it. He told Sarchie it was a monster. "There ain't nothing else I can call it," he explained. "It had rough fur sticking up all over its body and was hunkered down like it was hiding." After he saw it, the horrific creature vanished. A few months later, he encountered the being again. On that occasion, it assumed the form of a shadow man. It moved along the floor beside him, an unnatural mimic, deliberately keeping step with him. When the females in the house offered their testimony, shared separately and one at a time with the Warrens, they too described the incubus as being hairy and huge. According to Claudia, it looked like a beast with short black fur. To Marybeth, it was a demonic Bigfoot. And so there was some level of consistency, both in terms of the sighting descriptions and the atrocities experienced. After reaching out for help, first via the Sightings television show and later directly to Ed and Lorraine Warren and ultimately Ralph Sarchie, the McKenzie family came to uncover a possible reason for their suffering. The house, which they called home, was rumoured to guard a dark history. According to the account contained within Sarchie's Deliver Us from Evil book, another policeman had told the McKenzies that the previous owner of the house was a Satanist. His subsequent story was pure evil, with many of the details too vile to repeat here. Suffice to say, the previous owner was accused of having performed dark rituals defined by the worst sort of abuse. His 2 young children were victimized, as were animals and ultimately, if the shocking story is to be believed, an infant. All of this, so the McKenzies were told, took place in their home, specifically their basement laundry room. According to Sarchie, when he first walked around the house, this was the room in which he experienced an atmosphere of menace. Unlike the rest of the clean and spacious family home, the laundry room was gripped by an overpowering dread. There was no obvious reason for the feeling, only, so it is said, a secret, sinister past. Despite having reached out to both a Baptist minister and a Catholic priest for help, Claudia McKenzie had been utterly abandoned. Now, the 3 people in her home, the controversial investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, and an NYPD cop cum demonologist, were her only hope. And so it was, after spending 10 hours in the house, the longest he had ever done so on a case before, Sarchie conducted an exorcism. Working solo, moving from room to room, he showered everything with holy water as he read the Pope Leo prayer, his relic of the True Cross in hand. All the while, the nervous family were watched over by Ed and Lorraine Warren in a safe room. Fortunately, the exorcism was largely uneventful. Sarchie believes that his faith kept him safe. He felt connected to the divine and guided by the work of exorcists like Father Malachi Martin, he felt confident in his ability. And so, around midnight, he departed the house, bidding good night to both the McKenzies and the Warrens. A year later, he heard from Ed that Claudia had reached back out, not to say that the activity was ongoing, but rather, since the night of the exorcism, she, her daughters, and niece had been free of the demonic oppressor. It was done, finally over after 6 years of hell. As Sarchie concluded in his book, I was delighted that they could finally live in peace, but knew that somewhere out there is an extremely angry demon who hates love and loves to hate. After all, the reality of the demonic is that we exist in a state of spiritual warfare. There is no such place as a way. You are not banishing a demon to some void space, but simply moving it elsewhere. It is manifest and cannot be not so. Thus, in the words of Ralph Sarchie, it doesn't matter if you believe or not. It doesn't withdraw you from this battle. You are involved in it. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and would like to see more videos in this format, please go ahead and leave a like, a comment, and share this video with others. Not only does it help my channel, but it also lets me know what you'd like to see more of. Thank you again. Until next time.